fresh out the box.
Fresh California plums.
Welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror Fresh Film Fridays, the podcast where two dudes spin a wheel, it chooses three new movies, and they discuss them. Today we're talking about False Positive, a classic horror story, and Fear Street Part 2, 1978. These are all brand new movies streaming now on Netflix and Hulu. I am your co-host, Alec.
And I'm Justin.
And this is episode 2 of Fresh Film Fridays, Justin. And you know, I wanted to say one thing. We don't really know much about you, Justin. Who are you? Put you on the spot here.
I'm just a guy who likes movies, you know?
Well, basically, I mean, I know you. I've known you since what do you mean when you were probably like 13, right around then?
7th grade.
Yeah, so right around then you moved from New Jersey to Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And
the dirty Jers.
Yeah, the dirty Jers, Justin. You freaking military dude, and you've lived in Oklahoma. You've got a story to tell.
Yeah, so after high school, went into the Army for 3 years in Oklahoma, which was awful, and came back, and I tried going to school, and I worked at your family's security company, which was an experience all in itself. I mean, it was chill. It was like some of the easiest cash ever to be earned. Right. Which also Eric worked there too, so that's pretty cool. And then yep, just been doing finance and recently switched to insurance, and that's really it.
Yeah, now you live in Connecticut. You got a nice house, and I'm sorry, sorry to put you on the spot here. Just kind of wanted to have people know a little bit about you before they.
Sure. I also like to pick things up and put them down.
Yeah. You're a big, strong guy, Justin. I don't know if people know this. You're a very big man. All right, well, let's jump into these movies. So I just finished a False Positive, and you just finished a classic horror story, right?
Literally not even 5 minutes ago. And I wanted to say, before I forget, I think we can both agree that these three movies were better than last episode's three movies as a whole.
Yeah, abso-freaking-lutely. The only one of last week I even remotely enjoyed was Fear Street Part 1. So even this, everything's a step up. Well, why don't we jump right into classic horror story then? Because you just finished that one. So what were your initial thoughts on that?
I liked it more than I thought I would. I specifically picked it. One, the intro of like the creepy cabin drew me in, but then when I read the description and it was like Italian travelers get lost, and I was like, oh, Alec's gonna love this just because he can make fun of me for being Italian. But it actually was. I liked it.
Yeah, dude. I didn't know it was gonna be dubbed over. I didn't know anything about this movie, and seeing it, I was impressed. It's different than I was expecting. Even though it's like a big nod to like American horror movies, and they talk about that throughout the whole movie. It's fun to see like a European take on it where it's like familiar, but it's just a little different.
Yeah, I mean, I went into it assuming it was dubbed. The first thing that I noticed was I'll never understand why in like horror movies people swerve drastically out of the road and slam into something. Like realistically, the RV probably would have been fine if they ran over that dead goat.
Yeah.
Even you could have slammed on the brakes, but like it always results in like totaling the vehicle.
Yeah, that was like there's a couple parts that I thought were a little strange where like basically the whole premise is there's like a service that takes people from city to city in Italy, and it's like you can sign up and get on this van or whatever, and there's this guy Fabrizio, and he's like a YouTube filmmaker wannabe who's going to take this crew of people, and you've got the lead woman who's I think like going to go have an abortion, and then you've got I'm pretty sure, right? And then
that part was completely not necessary. Like where her mom was like, "We're gonna take you to the hospital." Like I don't know how that played into this movie.
I guess it was to show like I have an urgent reason to get home or whatever. And then you've got this like YouTube or Instagram star couple who's like, whatever they're doing.
Yeah, I think it was TikTok, but
okay, sorry. And then you've got this like hardened doctor who's like mysterious or whatever. You're like, what's this guy doing here? But anyways. So then they start driving out there, and it is kind of like a classic setup where everybody's having fun, getting to know each other, playing little games on their phones, and they're talking about horror movies in it. Mm-hmm. And then you're right, they crash, and that's the moment where I was like, okay, what's going on here? Why was the drunk guy driving? Why did Fabrizio stop driving?
Well, everyone else was sleeping, and I think they were just like, I mean, it wasn't responsible, but I think they were just like having a couple brews and like getting to know each other. But clearly you find out that this was all part of a plan at the end.
Yeah, I get it. But like, it's almost like magic because they have the drunk guy drive, which was like, okay, doesn't really make sense. But then the goat, they see that, which could have killed Fabrizio, but somehow didn't. And then magically they're able to take that car and put it in the middle of the woods and next to this creepy house. So that's where I was like, okay.
Yeah, I was completely confused. I felt like I missed something because they crashed probably the first tree was like 15 feet off the road and they ended up in a field in the middle of the forest. And I was
Right.
like, okay, maybe it's magic because he's telling the story of like these magical demons in Italy or something. But you're right, like there's 5 people in the RV, and the odds of all 5 of them being completely blacked out to the point
Yeah.
where people could move this RV without them waking up, I was like, it's a stretch.
I was thinking, okay, is there supernatural stuff? Because it kind of feels like The Village almost a little bit. It was
Mhm.
like Midsummer meets The Village, but then at the end you're like, wait, so it's not a cult. Anyways, let's keep going through the movie. So anyway, so they crash and then they're scared. They're trying to like figure out what the hell's going on. It turns out there is a cult there, and they capture one of their friends and basically mutilate him so they can all watch it. Basically,
Yeah, I mean it's funny because these movies always make me think of like what would I do in that scenario, and like when the girl, the main star, looked at the house and the door was open, like
yeah,
she walked into the house, like my first reaction would not to be to go into this creepy cabin house by myself.
no,
Like she's like a very small girl, and even myself, I'd be like, hey, like, can you get up? Like, can we go in together?
Yeah, just anything, dude. Yeah, none of the decisions they're making make sense, and that's why I was like, all right, maybe there is some weird shit in the air. Because at the end we do see the military sign, but that still doesn't really explain anything. And then yeah, you're thinking maybe it's these 3 demons, these Carcassios or whatever, but that kind of gets thrown out at the end too with the mafia stuff. So you're like, okay, why are these guys all idiots? Why why can't they get out of here? Because Fabrizio's like, we got to walk south, so they start walking south.
Well, Fabrizio 100% led them in a circle because, as you notice in the end, she was like a 15-minute walk from a public beach. So he led them in a circular path. But what I thought was interesting, so she went into the house. She's
Yeah.
looking at these super creepy black and white portraits of people with like dead animals on their heads.
Yeah.
And then she notices a door closed, which had to have been like a person closed it. And then she's like, I'm gonna go check it out. I would have been like, I'm getting the fuck out of this house.
Yeah, I don't know. Dude, seriously, if you go in there and you hear the slightest creak, you're running outside. Like,
Yeah.
even
I
if
mean,
you're
I
with your
wouldn't be in
friends.
there in the first place, but yeah.
No, no, and you're a huge dude. You still be like, I'm out. Like, we're done.
Oh, dude. And that just reminds me, like again, at nighttime when it's Fabrizio, is that his
Yeah,
name?
yeah.
And Fabrizio went outside to take a piss. Like he went pretty far from the RV. Like me personally, I would probably like I'd probably pee in a bottle because I don't want to
Yeah.
go outside. But I would probably just like walk right outside.
Well, obviously now it makes sense because we know that he's
Yeah.
a bad guy, but you're right, absolutely. When I was watching, I was like, dude, I'm like pissing on the RV. Like, I don't care who sees anything. I'm not going out there. Are you kidding me? So, all right. So, anyway, so then we find out later that basically this whole thing was a setup so that Fabrizio is selling snuff films on a weird site called, like, what was it, Bloodflix or something?
I think it was like a horror version of Netflix. The way that I took it, and it might be completely wrong, was I think that was the mafia.
Yeah,
Okay. And because she said, like, the mafia is not what it used to be. And from my understanding, is the son is making horror films by actually killing real people,
right.
selling it to make money for the mafia.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's 100% right.
I think the whole like demon thing was just to like make people interested in a movie,
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah,
an
for
old
sure.
Italian folklore type thing.
Yeah, he says, "I'm creating the new Freddy, Jason, and Leatherface or whatever, Michael Myers or whatever." You're right though, but he has this fascination with American horror films. Like he's talking about It and Sam Raimi, and
Yeah.
just like he's the one that's almost like instigating it. And I want to watch it again because I do feel like going back, I'd be like, okay, this guy's such a piece of shit.
Yeah. Like it makes sense how he was the only one who knew the Pennywise question on that phone game.
Yeah,
Remember, she was like, "What does Pennywise like feed on?" And she selected children, and he was like, "It is the fear."
yeah. Not gonna lie, did not like that guy's voice. The dubbing over for that guy, I was like,
Well, it
ugh.
was interesting because it was one of those dubs where they dubbed him over with like another Italian guy instead of just like a completely English voice. They chose like Italian people with heavy accents.
I think that guy was American doing an Italian accent, dude.
I hope not.
I don't know, I'm not sure, but everybody else had American accents, even if they weren't American, except for that guy, and I was like,
I know it was
why'd they
odd.
make him Italian? Because everybody else is supposed to be either British, Italian. That one woman said she was from Odessa, which is the Ukraine, I think. So I'm like, why does everybody have an American accent? But
Dude,
it is brutal though, dude.
what did
It's
you think about when they took I forgot what his name was, the redhead dude onto the
yeah,
table?
dude.
What was your thoughts on
I was like the eyeball thing. I was like, yeah, no,
Dude, I mean, I was like casually watching it and they took this like massive Resident Evil 4 mallet to his foot and
yeah.
it just snapped off. Dude, I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, yeah. It makes Misery look like fucking Barney the dinosaur. Like it was
But at least that
brutal.
was quick. Like in comparison to the eyeball thing, like dude, they left it a centimeter from his
Uh,
eyeball and then they like slowly turned it. I was like, "Dude, oh my
yeah, yeah.
god."
Honestly, there's one part of me sitting there for 1 second. It's like, if you know you're gonna die, maybe just smash your head into the needles. I don't know, because I'm like, don't let them do it. You
And
know?
then you heard it, like you heard the eyeballs being squished. I was like, this is pretty freaky, man."
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting the other two people to die so quick either. I was like, oh shit, they're really killing everybody quickly. And then the final girl, I guess, gets away, but like, what the hell happened? She makes it to the beach and then just sits in the water. She bleeds.
I think it was like a kind of like making fun of how society is now because instead of anyone
Yeah,
asking like, "Hey, are you?" everyone's just like Snapchatting it,
yeah.
and yeah, she just like I think she was like screaming underwater because she was like upset, obviously.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess before we move on, what do you think it was? Like, I mean, I know it's the mafia, but like, so what do they do? They just rope off an entire area. They're able to cut cell phone reception. They have like hundreds of people there that are all on board for this murder snuff film movies to make money. How much fucking money are they making? I mean, is it better than like selling drugs and stuff? I mean, what do you think it is?
I think they just put up that like fake military territory sign so no one would enter it, like no trespassing.
Yeah.
And then the son just like keeps going into town like probably every week and he's like, come on a tour. And then he does the same thing over and over and over again. And as you could tell from the car graveyard, like they've done it at least a dozen times. Like she just happened to somehow also that was another thing. Like I think if you had nails through your hands, I
Oh,
don't know if you'd be able to hold a shotgun and like pull a trigger.
yeah. Hope I never have to
Un
find out.
Unless it was adrenaline, but
Yeah. I mean,
she, like,
honestly,
blasted that 12-year-old girl. Dude.
yeah. I know, honestly, it's good a nice little revenge. She does get her revenge, and the fact that that girl was in on it the whole time, you're just kinda like, "This motherfucker." But, honestly, like, it's not an amazing movie, but if considering it's not American, if you do wanna try, like, checking out what an Italian horror movie, a modern one would be like, it's pretty easy, to get into it.
Yeah, I'd recommend it, and, I thought it was pretty funny at the end how the person who was watching the movie gave it a thumbs down, like, he didn't
Oh,
like
yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
would definitely recommend it, though.
Yeah, yeah, so how many Keanus would you give it, Justin?
I would say that it looks like a low-budget film, but they did a pretty good job with it.
Oh, yeah.
I'd give it a solid 3.
Oh yeah, dude. I was gonna give it a 3.5. I mean, hey, it was a Netflix movie. Like they made this movie, hoping that an Italian director would do it. So I mean, having an Italian director do it. So it's not like they had a movie made and then Netflix bought it. Like they actually made this one. So pretty cool. All right, well, moving on. What do you want to do next, Justin?
Let's leave Fear Street for last, so let's move on to a false positive.
All right, False Positive, which is currently streaming on Hulu, which was released on June 25th. So it's fairly new. What'd you think of this one? I just finished this like 10 minutes ago.
So I randomly came upon this on Hulu and just saw that it was 2021 and added it to the wheel. Literally didn't know until I clicked play that Pierce Brosnan was in it.
Oh yeah, me neither.
Which I thought was cool because I mean Pierce Brosnan's a cool actor to watch.
Best
Um,
Bond.
yeah, you think so?
He's my favorite Bond.
Okay, yeah, I would agree. My favorite as well. I would say the first half of the movie, I was kind of sitting there and I'm like, where's this going? Like what's happening?
Yeah.
I was kind of bored with it. The last like 30 minutes was intense as shit. Like it definitely made up for it. The ending definitely leaves you with like a you're not really 100% sure what really happened.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think you do know what happens at the end. I think you don't think so? What do you think happened at the end?
Well, I mean, one of two things happened. Like either Pierce Brosnan was actually who's a for the listeners, a doctor who helps women get pregnant. And either one of two things happen. He artificially is inseminating hundreds of women with his own semen to create his kids,
Hmm.
or she's actually crazy and killed him. Like
Right.
we
Okay.
don't really know what happened.
Huh. I mean, yeah. So I guess let's we'll do what this movie did. We'll talk about the ending first, and then work our way through it. But
Yeah, so in the very beginning, when she went to the bathroom, just something totally odd that I noticed, like, she didn't turn the lights on in the middle of the night, which, I mean, I wouldn't be able to see, and then she, like, didn't flush the toilet or washed her hands, and I was like, "You dirty like, what are you doing?"
that's what you noticed.
Dude, she just like, who but Alec, who pees in the toilet and doesn't flush it?
Yeah, nobody. But I don't know. I didn't even notice that.
I don't know, man. I was like, "It's skeevy, dude."
Yeah.
Um, but, I will say the first thing I noticed was when Pierce Brosnan was, like, injecting her, he, like, held up the husband's semen in the needle, and he was like, "Good work, son. This is powerful stuff." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's a really weird state."
Yeah. It's okay. So it's a weird movie overall. This was Alana Glazer. Do you know who she is?
No, is that the actress?
Yeah. So the lead actress in this, she was one of the creators of Broad City, that comedy show on Comedy Central.
Okay, she did look familiar.
So she wrote this. So the lead actress wrote this, and I was interested because I'm like, a lot of people, a lot of comedians have been going into horror, be doing that and directing their own movies. But she wrote and acted in this, so I was kind of curious to see what it was going to do, or what she was going to do with it. It. Have you ever seen Rosemary's Baby?
Maybe not.
Okay. This felt like a millennial kind of watered down version of that. And I don't mean that in like a bad way. It didn't have that the ending that didn't make sense to me basically. Like in Rosemary's Baby, it's kind of similar. It's like a woman gets pregnant, her husband's in on this pregnancy, she's seeing a weird doctor, the neighbors are kind of in on it, but it ends up being the child of Satan. So it's like there's a reason for it. Where this
Oh.
one, it just kind of felt like Pierce Bronson's just like, I'm passing on my seed. I'm this like really successful doctor, and like everybody should want to get pregnant with my baby. But why does Justin Theroux give a shit? Why would he do this?
I mean, again, it all really depends if she was, like, crazy or not, because for all we know, none of it actually happened, but,
Yeah.
like, yeah, the whole movie, the husband and the doctor were, like, really buddy-buddy, like, hugging each other,
Yeah.
and he mentioned how Pierce Brosnan was the teacher in medical school,
Right.
so, like, I'm sure they'd be close, but, like, they were acting like they were bros, which I thought was kind of funny. Also, I was surprised by the lack of knowledge that the husband had. Like, he's still a doctor, even though he doesn't specialize in, like, OBGYN or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, every symptom she had, he was like, "I don't know what to do. Let's go to Pierce Brosnan."
I can't. Well, no, he was like a facial, or he was like a surgeon, like a reconstruction surgeon. So he might be
Yeah,
doing like
but you still
plastic
have to
surgery.
go to, like, medical school.
Yeah, I don't know if he I mean, I don't fucking know. But I just think, like, this movie, there was a lot of buildup, and I actually really enjoyed the beginning, and then the last, like, 10 minutes, I was like, what's happening now?" Like, it just seems like everything's unraveling. That was the thing, there were so many dream sequency flashback things that I was, like, getting kinda confused. So I was like, "Wait, I thought she
Yeah.
saw that doctor woman, like, I wait, she did see her or she didn't? Why is the room different now?" So it started getting, like, too unhinged to the point where I was like, "Alright, I really don't know what's going on now, and maybe I need to watch it again, but yeah, I don't know."
Yeah, I agree. It's almost like they tried to make it so confusing that they actually made it too confusing. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really know what was, like, a flashback or a fake vision or what was real. But just looking at my notes here, so she got, like, artificially inseminated, and then the next morning, she was having morning sickness, which I don't think that's how it works.
I don't know.
Like, I'm pretty sure you have to be, like, not literally less than 24 hours, but I had this, like, vibe that, like, whatever he was injecting was, like, also something bad too.
Yeah. That's why I was like, "Okay, is it gonna be like a demon baby?" Or they did a lot of things where I thought it was gonna be like a clone of her or something like that, because there was a lot of, like, mirror imagery, so I was like, "Oh, there's 2," and then she opens the book of Peter Pan and it has the shadow that's just like her, and that turns into blood, so I was like, "Okay." There's a lot of imagery about, like, duality and stuff, but just I don't know, like, again, wouldn't she be like, "Hey, can I see the ultrasound to see that, like, I chose to keep the girl alive, but you're continuing to keep the boy alive? I just wanna make sure," sort of thing. She never checked that. So there's just a lot of things that are, like, too convenient, that
Yeah, that was, like, the husband and the doctor, like, they were in on it, like, where they aborted the daughter instead of the 2 sons because, like, the doctor was like, "They're 2 healthy boys," and the
yeah.
husband really wanted boys, and I'm like, Yeah, because when the boy came out, I was like, "No way, dude." I was like,
Yeah,
"What's going on
I
here?"
expected that, but that also was kinda confusing too, so, like, did she have the baby at that woman's office? Because then they're
I
like, "Get her to the hospital," like, once she started bleeding, but then so I was like, "Wait, where did she have the baby?"
I think she had one in the midwife's office, and then she like some had complications, and then went to the hospital. But Pierce Brosnan was just like coincidentally there waiting,
Yeah,
um,
okay.
unless she imagined it.
But then she
I
goes
don't know.
yeah, but then she goes back and she's like, "Your office looks different." And she's just like, "I'm not like, what you think I am." So and I was like, "Okay." The last 15 minutes really it just derailed so hard for me that I was like, "Shit." Like I felt like there really could have been a cool payoff here. S
I
Go
will
ahead.
say, when Pierce Brosnan was looking at the ultrasound, he's like, "Oh, there's one." He's like, "And two," and then when he was like, "And three," because it was the two boys and the one
Yeah.
daughter, I was waiting for him to be like, "And four." Like, dude,
Yeah.
come on, how many babies are in this woman? Like, what if he was like, "You have octuplets."
Yeah, just it's actually just the origin story of that John and Kate plus 8 TV show.
Based off a true story.
Yeah, it's, like, really dark. I think Pierce Brosnan did a good job, though, of kind of, like, just being creepy enough.
Yeah, he was like just under the line of like actually being a creepy doctor that you wouldn't see, but like so professionally creepy that you're like, oh, he's just like an overly weird, nice doctor.
Yeah, I mean, and then the ending is just kinda like, "So, you're telling me" like, I'm sorry, but, like, so you've just been jerking off into these vials that are just sitting in a refrigerator in your office.
There's a ton of semen in there.
You've been inseminating women for how many at least 30 years now? Because that woman's like, "I've been working for him for 18 years." So at least 18 years, and all you have so many children, and all these families are on board for it, but we don't learn what's the benefit of this. Why are so many families, like, cool with it? Why has he not had one lawsuit? Like, what like, that so that's what this movie was missing, where it's like, "I need a little bit more because this doesn't fucking
Well,
add up."
I think you're under the assumption that the families don't actually know. Because I mean, think about it. If you go to a doctor and you get artificially inseminated, it's not like when the baby's born, they're like, I want a blood test on this baby. Like, no one would think that a doctor would do that.
But he has that one, like they have that big meeting or that big, like, ceremony for him or whatever. He's like, "You're all part of the family now," like, sort of thing. So, I feel like it is like a cult or something now, kind of. I don't know. Maybe I missed something.
Maybe because like she said she thought she was part of some experiment. Like maybe the experiment is like, can he impregnate all these women who can't get pregnant? And like they're all his kids. He's got like hundreds of kids, and like no one really knows. And that's the award that he's actually getting.
Yeah, dude, it's just too much. Like, it just doesn't add up. There's not enough justification for that huge, grandiose scheme. And the other thing is, like, keeping Justin Theroux keeping all those documents in a safe in their house. It's like, first of all, dude, just keep them digitally or keep them in your office. Why would you even risk the chance of keeping them in your house?
Like her friend said, there was no safe in the house.
Yeah, but that's like, what if she kept the documents and didn't give it to that person? What if she just like went right to the news or something? I don't know. There's too much convenient things that just worked out. I'm not trying to shit on it because I thought it was like actually like a valiant effort. It's not a bad movie. Too
I mean,
much.
realistically, if a wife found pictures like that of herself and like her husband had it, there's no way anyone would be quiet. Like she would immediately be like, what the hell is this?" And
Yeah.
then what would he say? He'd be like, "Oh, I don't know. I was just stalking you."
Right. Or like, why didn't she take pictures of him on her phone just to be like, I have backups just in case something goes wrong?
Oh, the second she handed it to that girl, her friend, I was like, see, you never give away the only copy. You messed up.
Well, yeah, but, like, just take a picture of it on your phone. It takes
Yeah.
2 seconds to do that. I don't know. I also just kinda felt like, what are we going for here? Because like, is it like a demon baby? Because then at the end, the fetus is sucking her nipple. So, I was like
I was waiting for that to come up, dude. Like she had like a 1 week old aborted fetus that was the size of like your thumb, and she clearly was like imagining it breastfeeding, and I was like, man, this is getting real weird real fast.
yeah, so it was there was just too much like, mommy brain, as they call it in this movie, like, anytime something just became unbelievable, where, like, Pierce Brosnan is getting a blowjob from Justin Theroux, you're like, "What?" And then all of a sudden it's a dream, you're like, "Oh." And then all of these crazy things just keep happening throughout the movie, and they're all just dreams, so you're like, "Well, then what is this? This isn't the devil baby, like, from Rosemary's Baby." It just seems like there's a sick doctor trying to impregnate women, but is that even real? And we never get the justification, so yeah.
I mean, she was covered with blood at the end, Because at first they make it seem like she's about to. I thought she was gonna walk out of the window with the two babies and just kill herself and them.
Yeah.
And then it looked like because they were floating out of the apartment room, I was like, oh, she just like killed her two babies. But then she realistically handed them to her husband. So it looked like there was blood on her face from killing Pierce Brosnan. But then she gave the twins to her husband, and she was like, all three of you can get out.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was weird. It was weird. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
You
yeah.
you know what was completely unnecessary was when she was fighting the nurse and Pierce Brosnan, and she, like, shoved the ultrasound thing down her throat, and she got up and she was like, "I don't have a gag reflex." I was like, "What? Wait, like, what? Who would say that
Yeah.
in a fight like that?"
I feel like that was like Alana Glazer's like comedy moment, like kind of coming in the horror movie, but I was like,
Not
yeah,
at that moment,
I
though.
know, I know, I know,
Wrong moment.
I know. I know. And then so does Pierce Bronson survives, right? Because he's basically just like on the table, just like, yo, bitch, like after he got punched and his face is all bloody. So I'm like,
I
so
don't know. I got the impression that she was just continuing to punch him and then he died,
yeah,
but
because she does
maybe
walk
not.
out and say, you're gonna need a new doctor. So you're like, okay. She's going to jail. Like,
Right. I mean, she would have to prove to the police that, everything was happening. And then the doctor and like her husband and the nurse would be like, she's been having like weird visions for months. And they'd be like, okay, crazy lady.
yeah, it's I don't know. There's definitely a bigger message that maybe need to digest more. I just finished it, so
I
but
did find funny though when she grabbed like the refrigerator with all his semen in it and was throwing it on the floor. He was acting like his life was over. And I
I
was like,
know.
dude, you can just like make more.
I know. Yeah, he's like, "No! It
He could
took me."
literally make more today.
I know, it's like, "Alright, maybe it's like a fine wine." He's like, "This is my 1985 collection, my 1990."
That's a fine year.
"You've destroyed my collection."
It
Yeah.
was a weird movie. It was good, and I think the fact that Pierce Brosnan was in it made it as good as it was.
Yeah, and then Justin Theroux being, like, a huge actor too, and Ilana Glazer's, she's becoming a big actress now. I mean, Broad City was on for, like, 7 years. So it's a good cast. I'm not gonna lie, though, I'm gonna give it a 2.5.
Ugh. Okay, Keanu's, of course.
Yes, yes, yes. Not
Nah.
fetuses.
Yeah, I'd have to say a 2.5 as well. It, like, wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible, and it was a little too like, I like confusing movies, but this one, I legitimately don't know what happened.
It's too the thing is I also like confusing movies, but there's not enough payoff. I need to watch it again. Maybe I really missed things that, like, I'm like, "Okay, this all makes sense," but upon first viewing, I was like, "It's too confusing at the end for anything to really make sense for the entire movie."
Yeah, but are you actually gonna watch this again?
Not for a while.
Not for a while. Yeah, let's move off of this movie. It was weird. It was an uncomfortable movie, dude.
Yeah, well, anyways, moving on to our final film, Fear Street Part 2, 1978, which was released on July 8th, 2021. So this is about a month old now. Last episode, we did Fear Street Part 1. This is Fear Street Part 2. And what'd you think, Justin?
Well, upon the opening scene, I got pretty big Jason vibes. Like it was nighttime with a summer camp, and like there was a lake there.
Hmm.
So I immediately thought of Jason.
Oh, yeah.
It was good, not as good as the first one, in my opinion.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but it was good in a different way.
Interesting. I actually liked this one more than the first one.
Oh.
Wow, you wanna fight? What's going on? No, yeah, man, I just from the beginning, like, just watching that recap, I think they did a really good job of, like, if you haven't watched the first one, then, immediately, here's what happened.
Yeah, the recap was very good.
Yeah, and then, right off the bat, though, sorry, why did that, C. Berman woman, why was she like, "I can't help you?" It's like, "Yes, you can." And it's like, and you called them, and they're now coming to you for help. It's like, "I'm sorry, I just can't get involved." It's like, "Why can't you get involved now? You dragged them into this."
Well, you know what I was thinking about was because this is 1978 at the
Yeah,
time this is happening,
yeah.
and like she's at home. Like, how is she paying for the mortgage? How is she buying food? I'm like, remote work doesn't exist back then. Like, you have to be leaving the house to do a 9 to 5 somehow.
Yeah, how is she getting money? Maybe they'll explain that in part 3, but
Yeah, part three, it opens with she's been receiving checks from her grandparents.
Yeah, because she's literally, yeah, her whole life has just been her living in her house, like on a
Yeah,
very tight schedule,
yeah.
locking every door, alarm clocks are going off constantly in 1994. And then the kids from the first part are like, "Hey, you got to help us." She's like, "I can't help you. Like, I'm fucked up." She's like, "Well, please So she's like, okay, I guess I'll help you. I'll tell you the story. So the whole movie is her now telling the story of her experience
Right.
that the leads from the first one are now going through. I like
Back
that.
in 1978. And they're telling this whole story with that other girl screaming tied up against the radiator, which had to have been distracting.
Oh yeah, the like possessed girl from the first one.
Yeah.
It's like, hey. It's like, all right, let's all take a break. I'm gonna go give her a fucking some Benadryl. Like, let's put her out for another little.
Keep it down back there.
Yeah.
I will say, yeah, when it went back to the flashback and like they tied up that red-haired girl and they were burning her arm, the
Oh.
first thought that I had was like, this place would be they'd have the ball suit off of it. Like
Oh.
somebody's mother would see that bird and be like, "Oh, you guys are getting sued."
Oh my god, dude. 1978, it's just like, just listen. Like, they're about to kick her out of the camp after she gets her arm burned. It's like, if this was 2018 or what now, literally, you're right. Whole camp would be shut down and be like, CNN national news. It's like, red-haired girl burned for being ginger. It's just like, oh my god. And like, literally, those kids are in jail.
Yeah. So I mean, that happened, and then she goes to the nurse, who immediately, like upon seeing her, looks very distraught. Like I saw her, and I was like, oh, she knows something
Yeah.
that we need to know. And you find out, like in the end, that even though what she was gonna kill that kid, Tommy,
Yeah.
you thought like, oh, what a jerk! Like she's crazy. She was actually like trying to protect because she somehow knew that he was gonna freak out at like midnight or something and kill everybody.
Yeah, because her kid did the same thing, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so
right.
basically, like, this was kind of a nod, I think, to Friday the 13th, which came out 2 years later, 1980, but I think that it was kind of like the mother's son got killed or whatever, and he's a killer, like, just like Jason, and then she was trying to, I guess, stop it again, but he gets possessed anyways, like, out of nowhere. So was that because his head, he hit his head and he was like, "Oh, no, the back of my head hurts, I'm possessed."
Well, no, his name was on the stone
Yeah,
wall, and I
right.
think she knew that, so she was trying to kill him because she knew that at a certain time in that night, he was gonna be taken over. But
Right,
he
so
obviously
she's
couldn't be taken over if he was dead.
yeah,
Which
exactly, so
which leads me to my next point of, like, again, those kids went into that cave,
mhm.
and, like, I have to go back to the 2 movies ago that we just did, and I'm like, "Why are people doing these things?" Like
Yeah.
like, if you and I were 14 and we saw some creepy ass cave, like, neither of us would be like, "Let's just go in it."
I know, but I guess we have to give it the treatment of like, I mean, everybody always says this when they're talking about horror movies, like, I wouldn't do that. Why would they do that? It's like, well, then there's no movie.
Okay, well, fair
You know?
enough.
So it's like they have to be dumb. And that's why I like Cabin in the Woods, they justify it because it's like, oh, it's a controlled environment and they're like spraying like pheromones or whatever to make them do things. But at the end of the day, it's like, listen, if they don't go into the house, then yeah, what do they go to fucking like Chili's? And like that's the movie. They're like, I'm so glad we didn't go in that house. Oh, pass another onion ring. Like, we need them to do
Well,
stupid shit.
I thought it was cool because when Tommy grabbed the axe, I immediately was like, "Oh, he's the axe guy because
Yeah.
he has an axe." So, and dude, it was kind of scary.
Yeah.
Like he was walking fast, like speed walking to kill people.
Yeah, I know, like, most people like Michael Myers or Jason, they're slow. This guy's running at you. Also, you can cut his head off. He's still coming back, like,
I
immediately,
know.
you
At
know?
least like with scary, villains when they're like walking really slow and limping, you'd be like, I'm just gonna like slow jog out of here. Like that dude was moving.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the little guard kid with the blue shirt on, like when he got egged in the face and he was like, guys, I can't see. Cause he had like yolk in his eyes. I was like,
Yeah,
dude, he's dead. That
I
poor little
know.
kid.
And he was so nice. He's just like, "Come on, guys, like, you want some drinks or whatever?" Like, "Shut the fuck up." He's just like,
I
"Okay."
know they offered him juice.
Yeah. And they really hammer home the whole Sunny side, Shady side, or whatever,
Yeah,
Sunnyvale, Shady side.
they keep doing that.
They're like,
It's
"Listen,
like
you disgusting fucks, like, get out of here." It's like, "Oh god."
again, not sure if you didn't notice, there are no adults. The only people at camp are the counselors who are still like 15.
There's the nurse, right?
Well, she got taken away.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I
So,
don't
like,
know.
realistically, if there was literally one adult on a camp who got taken away, like the cops would be like, "Well, we need like another adult here," or like, "Let's call one of your parents." But they were like, "Fuck it, it's 1978. What's the worst that could happen?"
And if you kids have any extra cigarettes, I'm almost low.
Yeah, see, it was so funny. Those like the cheesy cops that showed up, and they were
Yeah.
like, "The nurse's daughter killed people too. The kids it runs in the family." I'm like, "This is not a joking matter,
E
officer."
No, and dude, how hard was the cops hammering home, like, "Nick Good, you're gonna be my boss one day." It's like,
Yeah, I was like, oh, is he? I guess he's the sheriff.
Yeah, it's like, "My name's Nick Good. I'm gonna be the cop in the next movie." Just the
Yeah,
whole movie.
when he said that cop, he's like, yeah, you're probably gonna be my boss one day. I was like, really? He's gonna like outrank you, even though you have like 30 years on the
Yeah,
force on
just
him.
just because his dad was, like, a legendary cop in this small town in the middle of nowhere, it's like, "Okay, sure." Yeah, I liked it more though, man, I don't know, I thought the pacing was cool, I love these kinda, like, '80s camp slasher movies, so I personally liked it more than the first one, but it was enjoyable, loved the music, thought the acting was pretty good, the it was brutal too, the chick when she broke her
Oh,
leg, like, the bone snapping,
oh,
I was just like,
oh.
"Ugh."
I don't know what she did, but she rolled the shit out of her ankle to the point where her bone was shooting out of her foot. And then she was walking on it. And I was like, there is no way. There's no, it was like dangling by the
Yeah.
skin, dude.
Dude, awful. But great special effects, pretty violent, brutal movie, especially like the end. So basically, if I just want to kind of understand this correctly, in the world of Fear Street, if you die, wait, was the red-haired girl possessed?
Look at the little girl, the main actress.
Yeah, yeah, like the main red-haired girl.
No, I think they were just making fun of her,
So why
calling
did she
her.
get? How was she able to come back to life then when she got stabbed to shit?
I don't know, dude. It's like the same concept as Fear Street Part One, where that person just died and then came back,
Yeah,
and then the curse ended. So,
but
I
like
guess that's a
she
good
got
point.
stabbed to
Oh yeah.
shit.
She got like stabbed in the kidney 4 times and then he just gave her CPR. And I was like, nah, dude, she would have nah, that's not how that works.
Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking, like, but the reason in the first one, when that girl came back after she got drowned or whatever, it was like, okay, she was possessed, so they had to kill her for her to come back. This red-haired girl in this one wasn't possessed, so why was she able to come back?
Maybe we'll find out in the third one that
Yeah,
is something still somehow affects her.
yeah,
Um I will say though that like the blonde haired chick who snapped her ankle when she touched that like dead pulsating sack of flesh,
yeah.
I would not touch that. The thing,
No.
she touched it and like she started seeing everyone being dead. I was like, why'd you do that?
Dude, she should
Why
have lit
did
it
you
on
do that?
fire or something, or like stabbed it with a machete or anything besides touch it with your own hand. I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
but then it makes the movie, Alec. So
No, I'm just saying there's alternatives if you're already in that situation to dealing with that, you know? Because if she touched it, then who knows, right? She could get possessed or whatever. But if she like
Mm.
lights a piece of paper on fire and throws it on there, maybe she destroys everything. I don't know. I don't make the Fear Street rules.
I will say though, when the witch like came back at the end and you heard that girl singing, the one who has like a straight razor,
Oh yeah.
dude, that girl's so terrifying.
Yeah.
Like the singing, I was like, oh no, she's back.
Dude, there's only one movie left after this. There's only the 1666 one.
Yeah, and from the looks of the previews, it looks like the whole cast from the second one is in it, but they're just like different actors, like they're playing different parts. Did you see that?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm like obviously interested, but I kind of like, are they gonna be able to wrap this all up in that movie? Especially if it takes place like, in colonial times?
Well, you'll have to find out in
I
2 weeks.
know. I don't know. I'm kind of excited, dude.
I mean, or
Honestly.
you could just watch it tomorrow.
No, I know, I know. I'm excited. The Fear Street movies have been really good. I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a 3.6.
It's a very specific rating.
3.666.
Oh, and
No.
I'd say 3.5. It was entertaining, so gory. Like,
Yeah.
dude, like you really believe that the axe went into those kids. Like he was fucking those kids up.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, they did a good job.
The girl who was like having sex with the counselor, and he came in, dude, and he hit her head, and it looked so realistic. I was like, oh man, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. No, they
Um,
they did they did a really good job with the gore in this one. I'm surprised. I mean, I want to know if it was mostly CGI, if it was more so practical. I can't tell.
I don't know. It was good though, and I thought the ending was really cool because the big sister like picked up a shovel and tried to protect her little sister, even though they both got like brutally murdered.
I know. She's just been like, just fucking run, just fucking run.
But yeah, 3.5. Yeah, 3.5. These three films collectively were definitely better than last episode's.
Oh yeah.
Because Cosmic Sin and Space Jam. I mean, Space Jam was like at least watchable, but Cosmic Sin, I was like, please be over, please.
I know it's only an hour and like 28 minutes. You're like, this is
Oh,
worse than anything. Yeah,
yeah, dude,
it's
I would have rather been that kid in a classic horror story who was getting his like eyes ripped out of his head. But is there anything else you want to say before I find out the next movies?
Nah, I just, honestly, I'm pleasantly surprised with the Fear Street series. So if you're looking for like a new horror movie series to check out. I think this one's fun, easily digestible. Classic horror story. Cool if you want to see a new Italian movie, a foreign film that's a cool horror movie. And then what was the other one? False Positive. This one's fine. I'd watch something. I mean, I'd watch Rosemary's Baby, honestly. I was gonna say something about Mary, but no.
So yeah, well, I'd watch something about Mary.
Yeah, no, but that's all. That's all I have to say.
Okay, so obviously of the 3 movies for the next episode, one is going to be Fear Street Part 3.
Yes.
So I will spin the wheel. Okay, this one is Jolt, which is on Amazon. You want to read the description for that?
A bouncer with an anger management problem goes on a revenge-fueled rampage after the murder of a friend. Dun dun dun. With Kate Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale's in it?
She is Jolt,
Okay, all right.
I think.
Is she? Oh, well, she's in it. That's all that really matters.
Yeah.
Let's see the next one. Okay, another horror one. This one is Blood Red Sky, which is on Netflix.
When a group of terrorists hijack an overnight transatlantic flight, a mysterious ill woman must unleash a monstrous secret to protect her young son.
I did just want to say, though, before the episode's over, our social media, I mean, it's not massive right now, but the following has grown like 3 times the size in the past like 7 days.
Hell yeah.
So if any of the other podcasts are listening, thank you. And I know a bunch of other podcasts reached out to me on Twitter to set up collaborations, which is sick. If you want to do that, just reach out, and like me, Alec, or Eric, we'll discuss like how we all do it, but that'll definitely be cool.
No, seriously. Thank you so much, Justin, obviously, for growing that. And everybody that's been listening in, obviously our numbers have jumped up quite a bit in the past couple weeks. So it's been pretty cool. So thanks for listening in. And we will have a new episode of Wheel of Horror with Sleepaway Camp this upcoming Monday, and the last episode of Sci-Fi Summer, which is going to be Starship Troopers. So listen in and check it out. And we'll see everybody 2 weeks from today with another episode of Fresh Film Fridays.